There are 7 levels of witches and wizards in the Harry Potter world. At the top, you've got the legends who bend reality with a flick of their wand. At the bottom, well, let's just say some people should have never been allowed near a spellbook. So let's start at the very bottom. Level 1, the Wandless Wonders. At the very bottom of wizarding society are the Wandless Wonders, the people who prove that just being born magical doesn't guarantee you'll ever be useful. First up, the Squibs. Argus Filch is the poster child here. He's trapped in a school where 11-year-olds can levitate feathers, and his best defense is Mrs. Norris, a cat with more talent than he has. Every day he's chasing students around with a lantern like he's in a Victorian ghost story, while Peeves the Poltergeist treats him like a chew toy. Filch even sends away for a quick-fix spell course, Quick Spell, only to be mocked when people find out. Imagine being so bad at magic you try ordering it through the post. Then there are the accidental magic disasters. These are kids who can't control anything but still cause chaos just by existing. Harry's childhood is full of it. Vanishing glass at the zoo, blowing up Aunt Marge like a hot air balloon, regrowing his hair overnight because Aunt Petunia gave him a butchered haircut. It's not skill, it's a live-action hazard warning. You wouldn't want to sit next to one of these kids at dinner unless you enjoy your plates exploding. And finally, we have the frauds. Gilderoy Lockhart technically has a wand, but let's be honest, he belongs down here. Every achievement in his books was stolen from someone else. When he finally tries to prove himself, he botches a simple memory charm and wipes his own brain.
Hello. Who are you?
From best-selling author to St. Mungo's patient in one flick of the wrist. That's not just failure, that's art. This tier is the magical world's lowest setting. People who either can't use magic, shouldn't use magic, or fake it until magic itself gives up on them. Level 2, the Hogwarts Hazards. If Level 1 is about people who can't do magic, Level 2 is about people who technically can, but you almost wish they didn't. Welcome to the Hogwarts Hazards, the students who make you wonder how Voldemort ever lost. Front and center is Neville Longbottom in his early years. The boy had a talent for raising the heart rate of his teachers. In Sorcerer's Stone, he ends up dangling from a broom 50 feet in the air before crashing into the ground like a sack of potatoes. In Potions, he melted more cauldrons than Snape had insults. And when he tried to cure his own boils, let's just say the boils won. Neville's redemption arc is legendary, but young Neville was less chosen one and more a glow-up waiting to happen. Then we've got Seamus Finnegan, whose main magical specialty was blowing things up. Candles, cauldrons, eyebrows. If Seamus was near it, you had 4 seconds to run away. His Wingardium Leviosa attempt ended with feathers on fire.
Think we're going to need another feather over here, Professor.
By 4th year, Professor Flitwick took out insurance whenever Seamus picked up his wand. And of course, there are the general student mishaps. Ron trying a slug club potion and vomiting slugs all over the courtyard. Crabbe and Goyle failing so hard at Fiendfire that one literally burns himself alive with his own spell. The Hogwarts Hazards aren't untalented, they're just catastrophically inconsistent. One moment they're casting a charm, the next they're in the hospital wing being patched up by Madame Pomfrey, who probably had a whole ward named after Seamus at this point. This level is proof that while Hogwarts may teach magic, it doesn't teach common sense. Level 3, the spell-slinging side characters. Now we're out of the danger zone. Kind of. Level 3 is home to the witches and wizards who can handle themselves, but only just enough to be background noise in the big picture. They're not legendary, they're not disasters, they're just there. The spell-slinging side characters. Think about the average ministry employee. These are the people who manage to pass their owls without blowing up the exam hall, then settled into safe jobs pushing parchment around. They can cast a decent shield charm if the situation demands it, but you wouldn't bet on them lasting 10 minutes against a Death Eater. When the Order of the Phoenix or the Aurors take the field, these folks are the ones running for cover. Then you've got the forgettable professors. Not the icons like McGonagall or Snape, the other ones. Professor Binns literally lectures students to sleep every year and doesn't notice because he's a ghost. Madam Hooch shows up for 1 flying lesson per book and then apparently clocks out for the rest of the term. They're technically magical authorities, but they're hardly inspiring. And let's not forget the nameless Aurors and side fighters. The ones who show up in the background during a ministry raid or the Battle of Hogwarts, fling a few spells, and immediately get overshadowed by the heavy hitters. They're basically the non-player characters of the wizarding world. Useful for filling space, not for carrying the plot. This tier is the magical world's middle management. Competent enough to avoid embarrassment, but never extraordinary. If Neville was once a walking accident and Dumbledore was basically magic incarnate, these are the people in the middle, standing around, wand at the ready, praying not to be the first one petrified. Level 4, the decent but disposable. At level 4, we finally meet the witches and wizards who can actually hold their own in a duel. They're trained, competent, and sometimes even impressive. The problem? They're not the stars of the story. When the big names walk in, these folks instantly get downgraded to supporting cast. Think about the competent professors. Flitwick is a former dueling champion, small, squeaky, and surprisingly deadly with a wand. Sprout can weaponize plants in ways that make you question eating salad ever again. They're both good, but they're never the headline act. When Voldemort attacks Hogwarts, nobody's yelling, "Where's Sprout?" Then you've got Aurors like Tonks. She's a skilled fighter, an actual professional, and manages to make shapeshifting look like a party trick. But even Tonks spends most of her page time getting knocked around or sidelined while the plot focuses on bigger names. She's great until Bellatrix shows up, and then suddenly it's game over. And we can't skip the Order of the Phoenix regulars, Lupin, Moody, even Arthur Weasley when he's not tinkering with plugs. These are the people you want around in a fight. They can duel, defend, and pull off clever magic under pressure. But the cruel truth of level 4 is that, as good as they are, they're still replaceable. There's always a heavier hitter waiting in the wings. The decent but disposable are the backbone of the wizarding world. They make up the bulk of the fighting force, they teach the next generation, and they keep the magical system running. But when a Dumbledore or a Voldemort walks into the room, these are the people quietly shuffling to the side, hoping not to be the first casualty. Level 5, the boss fight material. Level 5 is where things start getting serious. These are the witches and wizards who can define a battle. When they step onto the field, the tone shifts. The duel stops being background chaos and turns into a main event. They are the boss fights of the wizarding world. Take Professor McGonagall. On the surface, she's all tartan and stern glares, but put a wand in her hand and she turns into a human artillery cannon. In Deathly Hallows, she literally animates the Hogwarts statues and sends them stomping into battle like it's a magical Transformers movie. When she tells the other professors, "I've always wanted to use that spell," you believe her.
I've always wanted to use that spell.
Then there's Kingsley Shacklebolt, the Auror who makes competence look effortless. He goes from fighting Death Eaters at the Ministry to casually dueling Voldemort himself during the Battle of Hogwarts, and lived to tell the tale. Kingsley doesn't waste words, doesn't waste spells, and doesn't waste time. He's the calm in the storm, the guy you want leading your raid party. Sirius Black also belongs here. Reckless, explosive, and completely unpredictable, he could turn any duel into chaos. In the Department of Mysteries, he's dueling side by side with Harry like it's second nature. Love him or hate his temper, Sirius had raw talent and an edge that made him dangerous right up until the very end. And of course, Bellatrix Lestrange. Cackling, sadistic, and utterly terrifying, she's Voldemort's most loyal lieutenant for a reason. She kills Sirius, tortures Neville's parents into insanity, and still has the nerve to laugh about it. Bellatrix doesn't just duel, she makes it a performance. Level 5 fighters are the reason everyone else ducks for cover. Level 6, the Rule Benders. At level 6, we enter dangerous territory. The witches and wizards who don't just use magic, they twist it, break it, and reinvent it. These are the people who treat the laws of spellcasting like vague suggestions, and the rest of the magical world just tries to keep up. Take Severus Snape. You can't deny the man was operating on a different wavelength. He was one of the few who could actually invent spells. Sectum Sempra, Levicorpus, half the scribbles in the Half-Blood Prince's potions book, all his. Then there's Alastor Mad-Eye Moody. Paranoid, scarred, and completely unhinged, Moody lived by bending the rules until they snapped. He turned the unforgivable curses into a classroom demonstration and thought the best way to teach defense was borderline trauma. Was he terrifying? Absolutely. Was he effective? Also, yes. On the darker side, Gellert Grindelwald belongs here. Unlike Voldemort, Grindelwald wasn't just a killer. He was a revolutionary. He weaponized charisma, bent entire nations to his vision, and pushed magic into political upheaval. Grindelwald fought ideologies. That's what made him so dangerous. Even the likes of McGonagall arguably creep into this tier. Animagus transformation, mastery of transfiguration so fine she can turn furniture into soldiers. Level 6 wizards are the ones who take a look at centuries of magical tradition and go, yeah, but what if I do it my way? Level 7, the untouchables. This is it, the ceiling. The place only a handful of witches and wizards have ever reached, the most powerful, the most untouchable. When they step into the story, everybody else instantly gets downgraded to background characters. Start with Voldemort. The man butchered his soul into pieces and still had enough magic left to make most wizards look like first years. Killing Curse, Fiendfire, serpents the size of buses, he stacked every cheat code he could find and still ended up losing to a schoolboy. But let's not kid ourselves. In raw magical force, Voldemort was an absolute monster. Then there's Dumbledore. If Voldemort was terror, Dumbledore was inevitability. This is the man who casually dueled Grindelwald at the height of his power and won. The one who turned the Ministry Atrium into a light show while shrugging off the killing curse with style. Dumbledore understood magic like it was a language only he could speak. And if we're going way back, Merlin sits here too, in legend. Every wizarding household name drops him like he's the Beyoncé of magic. Nobody even bothers comparing themselves to Merlin because the gap's too big. These are the apex predators. They don't need backup, they don't need luck, and they definitely don't need introductions. Everybody else is either fighting to survive against them or just trying not to get in their way. If level 1 was magic gone wrong, level 7 is magic perfected, the point where skill, knowledge, and sheer presence turn a wizard into something more like a force of nature. And that's the ladder. From Squib's sweeping corridors to Dumbledore casually rewriting the laws of magic. 7 levels of witches and wizards, each more chaotic, dangerous, or legendary than the last. But here's the thing. For all the duels, curses, and ancient sorcery, sometimes the most ridiculous moments in Harry Potter come down to one spell. A single disarming charm that behaves so inconsistently, it might as well have a personality disorder. So let's talk about it. Every time Expelliarmus behaved differently.